Hi everyone and welcome to today's webinar, Reporting Workplace Gender Equality to Avoid the Public Shame List. Okay, so just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. So you can hear us but we can't hear you, so if you do have any questions, feel free to just type them into the Q&A panel, which is up at the top or the bottom of your screen, depending on which operating system you're on, and we'll have a bit of time for questions at the end of the webinar. So today we'll be taking you through your reporting requirements for gender diversity. So that's the boring bit that you've got to comply with. Grant Cumming, our Planning at Work specialist, is going to take you way beyond that though and show you how to visually prepare your gender diversity reports so you can actually use this information for workforce planning and recruitment. This makes it a lot easier to prepare the reports you need to, but it also makes the reports much more practical as well. We're also going to go through some easy ways to set goals and alarms for you to create your own gender diversity targets.
Excellent. Well, thanks for that, Ben, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. So, Ben, why do we care about gender equality?
So, ignoring all of the compliance reasons for a second, there's some pretty big advantages to having a diverse workforce. First, having a balanced workplace is much more appealing to top talent. You've got a bigger pool of candidates to attract, and your balanced workplace is going to be heaps more appealing to prospective candidates, especially when they're younger workers. Statistically, women are better educated than men in Australia, so when we look at gender specifically, you really don't want to miss out on the female talent pool. Just to be clear, I'm not admitting girls are smarter than us guys, and if there are studies that prove it, please be very kind and don't share them with your male colleagues. The next reason is all about cost. So diverse workforces have lower turnover. It might be because they're better places to work, or it could be due to other factors. But either way, less turnover means much lower expenditure on recruitment and onboarding. So finally, and probably most importantly, companies with good gender diversity perform better overall. You've got more diverse opinions and experiences, which can make you more competitive than other organisations.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Ben. So, when's the reporting deadline?
So it's May 31st, and that comes up every year. So that's set by the Workforce Gender Equality Agency, which is the WGEA, and that's a government department. So to be clear, if you have more than 100 employees and you aren't a government organisation, you need to report. That's 100 headcount too, not FTE, but it's excluding contractors. One other thing worth noting is even if you have less than 100 employees in Australia, but you have a global parent company, you may still need to report. So it's a little bit complicated to work it out, but the website's listed on this slide if you do have any questions about that one, or you can talk to us. If you don't report, there's a list that gets published publicly on the WGEA website. It's also sent to the relevant minister. So let's assume you're lucky and no one notices this report, although I'm sure plenty of competitors and reporters will be watching it pretty closely. You're also going to lose your eligibility for contracts from the Commonwealth. So if you ever do any jobs for the government, you could be prevented from doing so in the future if you don't report. The last point is that you might miss out on a bunch of grants and assistance from the government if you do fail to report. So definitely worth considering. I think we've said it enough ways, you've really got to get this in by May 31st.
Excellent. Thank you very much for making that all of that really clear for us, Ben. So what do we actually need to include in the reports?
The reports themselves really just need to show gender diversity by a few different factors. So there's the department that they're in, salary, and the title, which is mostly so you can tell whether they're a manager or what level of management they're in. You're also going to want to know the reporting structure, as that will make it easy to prepare visual reports, so you can see which parts of your organisation have gender diversity issues. All of this information should already be in your HRIS anyway. So Grant, how can we put this information into a useful report with Planning at Work?
Thank you very much for asking, Ben. So Planning at Work can be described as a window into your HRIS data. So it enables you to integrate directly with your HR source of truth. So Planning at Work brings this HR data to life using your organisation reporting structure as the foundation. Usually this would be a position-to-position reporting structure, and enables you to use this foundation to visualise any field, including metrics-based fields. You are then able to apply box colours, conditional formatting as visual alarms, and calculated formulas to your metrics-based fields. So like a shop window, it puts this information on display and makes it more readily available to the different audiences that you have in your organisation and their respective requirements. Using a centralised administration area, you are able to securely automate who has on-demand access to what information and or company region through their respective login or single sign-on details. So what you end up with is a fully secure automated workflow from your source of truth to your end user. So how can we use this tool to assist with gender diversity reporting, or not only the reporting but also being able to visualise and manage gender diversity across your organisation? So when you think about gender diversity reporting, it's fairly easy. Extract some numbers from your HRIS, done, nice and easy. But the challenging part is being able to share this information in a way where our key decision makers across the organisation can not only easily spot regional diversity issues, but also see how this relates to remuneration across genders. So this is where planning at work comes in. Here is an example of a gender diversity chart you can build in Planning at Work that is utilising all of the information required in your government report. As you can see in this example, in the chart itself we have a coloured formatting in place for both genders, not that original I know, pink for females and blue for males. We've also included job title, department, a roll-up of headcount based on gender if the person or position has subordinates, remuneration details, and in this example we have also included a compra ratio, which is a percentage figure based on the actual salary compared to budgeted salary. This would also work as well if you have salary banding in your organisation. So we have matched the insights and all information on this chart to the required government report. So if you have gender diversity targets, notice you can also include a visual alarm where there may be an imbalance. So in this example, we've just used a gender icon based on a percentage parameter. You can also utilise the profile card to include additional calculated formulas to give you at-a-glance information. So in this case, a roll-up of compra ratio banding based on headcount. So this is a real-time visual representation of gender diversity across your organisation and really does make it very easy to manage your gender diversity goals. Also worth noting is that you can easily export this report out to Excel directly from Planning at Work, as you have all of the required fields all ready to go. You can even save this export as a template, making it extremely easy to create this report on an ongoing basis or whenever required.
All right, well, thanks for that, Grant. So seeing as we've done all the hard work now to understand where our organisation is at the moment, the WGEA sets out a 7-step guide to setting a gender target for the future, if you haven't already got one. So if you use your current snapshot as a baseline, you can then choose what you want your target to be for each department or as a whole organisation. So you can see this step on the screen, but there is more information on the website as well, on the WGEA website. So you can get some sort of tools and tips as to how to best set this up. So remember, you don't have to go for a 50-50 split. In some industries it's impractical. So if 90% of the talent pool is male, it's unreasonable to strive for a 50-50 split in your workforce. In fact, that could mean you're hiring based on gender rather than skill, which is a dangerous practice to start on. Once you have these targets, you can then use them to guide your HR strategies. For example, if you wanted to have more female medical practitioners at your organisation, you could make your recruitment advertising focused on this demographic. So potentially advertising any relevant perks. So if they're at the right age, it could be maternity-related perks. Or it could even be as simple as subtly showing that you have women in senior positions to show that you aren't an old-fashioned, male-dominated team. Alright, so a couple of key takeaways for today. I guess the biggest one is you have to report. May 31st is your deadline. If you don't, you're going to be added to the government shame list, which could be picked up by the press. It's also worth noting that if you report and you don't have good gender diversity, that could also be picked up as well, as a lot of the results do get published publicly as well. It's a little bit different in the ruling for that one, but either way, this is more just about getting your reports ready and getting them in on time. If you fail to do so, you'll be ineligible for many government tenders, and for any grants as well.
Awesome, thanks for that, Ben. So, ways to actually manage and visualise gender diversity across the organisation. So, today we've given you a good example of actually using an org charting tool such as Planning at Work or Org Plus Desktop to actually show what gender diversity is using your reporting structure as the baseline and how it relates to the reporting structure. So it really is a great way to not only be able to visualise gender diversity, but also to also set targets and use visual alarms to actually show to quickly bring up where there may be gender diversity issues across your organisation.
Okay, and the last sort of key point, I guess, is that diversity isn't just about compliance. So if you make it part of your ongoing workflow, if you've set up these reports and charts so that you can always be on top of your diversity, you can use that as a competitive advantage. You know, you'll be attracting better talent, you're going to have more diverse sort of inputs into the team, and through that you're going to be more competitive. So try and turn it to your advantage. Don't just use it think of it as something that you have to do.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for that. So now we'll field any questions that you may have. Have any questions come through there, Ben?
I've got one here. So how long would it take to build a gender diversity chart?
Okay, that's a good question. So it really just depends on your skill level in regards to using these tools. So just to give you an idea, our product consultants, who obviously have a fair bit of experience in building charts for our different customers across our customer base, would take them around about half a day to actually build a chart in either Planning at Work or Org Plus. If you are actually using a tool like Planning at Work, Org Plus Enterprise or Org Plus Desktop, and you don't have the skills to create the chart but would like to actually build a chart, that's something that we can actually do as part of our consulting services, either actually build the chart and apply it to your system, all done remotely, or alternatively we can actually train or mentor you to actually building different charts, such as the gender diversity chart, if you'd like some assistance there.
Alright, we haven't had any other questions come through at the moment, so if you do have any, you can type them into the Q&A panel. Alternatively, you can get in touch with us after the webinar as well if you have more specific requirements or you don't want to publicly ask them. So all the contact details for Grant and Zach are on the screen there.
Cool. Thank you very much for that, Ben. So just one final slide that we'd like to leave you with. So over the last couple of years or so, we have built up quite a nice little archive of webinars that cover all sorts of information around, mostly around org charting. So there's a couple there that I'd like to bring your attention to. If you're new to org charting, or you've currently got a manual process and you'd like to look at ways of automating that process a little bit more, the webinar I'd like to refer you to is How to Kill Your Spreadsheet with Org Charts, so on the top right hand corner there. If you're interested in looking at ways of being able to utilise org charting for restructures, then probably the webinars on the left hand side of the screen there are the best to have a look at. And finally, in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got a fantastic real-life interview with the Bank of Queensland and how they use Planning at Work. So that's a great real-life story in terms of the benefits that an organisation gets from using these tools.
We've just had one quick question come in. So can data from Planning at Work be fed directly to the WGEA report format? So for those who don't know, the WGEA report format is just as an Excel spreadsheet. So that's to do with that export process that Grant was showing you guys before. So you can configure all of that one as you're doing the export for yourself, and you can even save it as a template, as Grant was showing.
Yep, that's correct. So the answer to that is a resounding yes. Whether you're using Planning at Work, Org Plus Enterprise, or in fact Org Plus Desktop will also enable you to do that as well. So yeah, like Ben mentioned before, if you do want further details on that, feel free to get in touch with either Zach or myself, and we'd be more than happy to walk you through any other questions you may have. Excellent. Well, nice short webinar for you today. So I hope you got some good information out of that and some ideas around how you can actually manage that diversity across your organisation. So yeah, look, really appreciate your attendance today. We will also be sending out a recording of the webinar once again, and we will be adding this webinar to our archive of webinars found on our website. So thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.